Hey, I'm Lisa and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm answering a question I get asked all the time. Am I done having children? So we just had our 7th child in 9 years. I have a 9-year-old, 7-year-old, 6-year-old, 4-year-old, 3-year-old, 18-month-old, and a 3-week-old. And so, as you can imagine, this is a question that I have been asked quite a number of times in many stages of my life. It's a question that used to really bother me, but now I don't really let it bother me anymore. But I want to share with you very personally my opinions on having lots of kids, my opinions of being open to having kids. This is going to be a very different video than you might be used to from me. And so I would invite you, if you're not interested in conversations about my faith and real, I'm going to be talking very authentically and very honestly. If you'd rather skip this one, come back next week when I'm going to talk about productivity and how you can still be productive with a newborn. But I'm going to get really raw and really honest with you because I think it's an important part of who I am and I really want to share it with you. So the first thing I want to share is that my family is Catholic and my faith informs quite a few things in my life, my lifestyle, and my husband and I, like many other Catholic couples before us, have chosen to be very open when it comes to life. And what does this really mean on a practical level? It means that my husband and I have chosen to view our fertility as a gift, as well as to invite God into when and how many children we have, which means that we do not use any form of artificial birth control. This might be shocking to some of you out there. This might be a completely foreign concept to many of you out there. This is also extremely vulnerable for me to talk about because I don't exactly, hi, I'm Lisa, nice to meet you. Do you know I use no artificial birth control? It's not exactly the thing that you start a conversation with, but in the spirit of answering the question, am I done having children? I do think it's an important thing to share with you. This is so vulnerable. Okay, so the next thing I want to share is that I was not exactly all that on board with this whole concept. I really was not on board on it. I mean, I don't think I was ever at a point where I was like, I'm not gonna do that. But let me tell you, I learned how to use that natural method of spacing children like a pro. Let me tell you, I could have earned a gold medal in natural ways to space your children because I was like, oh, we are gonna travel, we're not gonna have children until we have money, we're not gonna this. I had all these things that I was all convinced that I had to do before I had children. But then again, just to be so sincere and so honest, when we had our first child and I felt the powerful feeling that comes with creating a life with your spouse, the very powerful feeling that comes with holding your own child and realizing that there's a lot more to life than yourself and your own needs, all those things. When I realized what having children did to our marriage and to myself as an individual, I just I just really discovered that I loved having children. And so I viewed that whole concept of being open to children very differently. But I still had me all kinds of doubts, don't get me wrong. And I remember my husband and I sat down with friends of ours who at the time had 5 small children. They now have 13, my friends. And at that time, young Lisa, I was, like I said, very skeptical, very much had all of my own ideas around what I wanted in my life, and that they did not really include having children at no timing. Let me remind you, I am a type A personality that loves to plan. So the concept of being open to children perhaps at any time was basically absolutely terrifying to me. And I grilled my friends. I grilled them on all the things that now people ask me. How do you afford having so many small children? How do you get out the house with so many small children? How do you make any time for yourselves or each other with so many small children? How on earth are you sane and alive and awake with so many small children? You guys, I asked all the questions with the exact same edge and even snark that I think some people ask me. And they were so patient and they were so kind and they were very gracious. They answered all my questions very, very patiently. I was actually just having a conversation with a girlfriend about this. I continued to walk in faith even though I had a bunch of doubts. So when we had our first child, you know, it was great. Like I trusted that everything would work out. When we got pregnant with our second child, like, you know, very close after, and had her 18 months later, same thing. I had a lot of fear, but I just sort of trusted that everything was gonna be okay. When we had our third child, still lots of fear. And then our fourth child, even more fear. But I want to tell you this, and I've recorded a lot of videos. You might remember I had my minivan meltdown that I talk about. I'll link that video for you in the cards when I had my fourth child. And something massive shifted in me. And what I want to say shifted in me was giving up control. In my minivan, I realized that there had to be another way that I could do life. It didn't have to be so overwhelming. I didn't have to feel so gosh darn guilty and exhausted and not happy all the time. But another thing that happened in that minivan was also a recognition that perhaps I could let go of a bunch of things that I had been holding onto. Post my fourth child, I began to realize that a lot of the things that I was doing in my life, I was doing for other people. And a lot of the things that were making me happy and feeling alive and amazing, I was keeping really hidden. I loved having all those small kids. Was I overwhelmed and exhausted? Yes, but that was wrapped up in trying to prove myself, and I've talked a lot about that here on my channel. You can catch up in videos if you want, but a lot of that exhaustion was wrapped up in proving myself to other people, particularly women. Oh my word, I just was constantly comparing myself and on this hamster wheel of exhaustion, of comparison. And I was almost like ashamed, or I was trying to hide the things that I really loved, that really gave me life. And motherhood was one of those things, because I thought that other people would look down on me if I shared this part of my life that really gave me joy. You guys, this doesn't make sense, okay? Like, doesn't make sense at all. And so like I've shared, I went on a whole journey to kind of come to realize that I love being a mom, and I'm actually kind of good at it. I'm really bad at a lot of areas of it, but there are aspects of motherhood that I thrive in. So as I've shared a couple times on this channel, many times on this channel, and on Instagram especially, I basically went on this whole journey of realizing that, like, oh my gosh, like I actually am really happy with my life, but I have to be confident in that and not kind of worry about what other people think and worry that, you know, people are judging me for my life choices and whatnot. And motherhood and openness to babies absolutely fell in that bucket of happiness in my life, but that I was kind of hiding or kind of trying to downplay because I was worried what people were going to think. So to get back to the original question that I presented in this video, am I done having children? I'll be very honest with you, the answer is no. I don't think we're done having children. I think it's fairly likely we're gonna have more. And a lot of my confidence, I guess, or my ability to answer that with such assurance comes from this whole concept of giving up control and being okay with that. When I made that shift in the minivan, when I acknowledged that if I gave up control in certain elements of my life, that perhaps I would be happier, experience showed me that I was happier. Giving up control was a massive, like, mindset shift, turning point, lifestyle change that led to a lot of really, really good things. And so I can say that I'm fairly confident that we're gonna have more children, because experiences show me when I have given up control, some pretty awesome things have happened. And again, just to be very vulnerable and very honest, that's absolutely informed by my trusting in God and His plan for my life, and that his plan, and when I invite him into this plan, it's gonna be like infinitely better than the plan I ever imagined. And again, just to be super straight up with you, experience has shown me that this is true. And so I rely on my experience to inform a lot of my decision making. And for me and my family, trusting in God and his plan has always proven to be better than trusting in my own. So now I want to address a couple questions that I've been getting quite a bit over the last 3 weeks and over the last 9 years of my career being a mom. So one question I get quite a bit is, if I have another baby, is that going to take away from my other child or my other children? Is it really possible to, love them in a fair way when my attention is so divided? So this is a very normal question. It's something that I felt absolutely way back in my friend's kitchen when they only had the 5 kids and they now have 13. I absolutely had those thoughts. And I think something that people don't sort of realize maybe until you're in it is that you don't just get the love of mom and dad, you get the love of siblings. And I'm pretty sure it's John Paul II who shared that like the greatest gift that you can give a child is a sibling. And my experience has shown me that this is like 100% true. The love that I observe my older children giving my younger guys is kind of amazing. Like they get it. They get it as young as 18 months. So the cutest thing is we have all these pictures of the youngest, the former youngest child, the 18-month-old, trying to nurture and love the baby. Our James, our 6th child, has been trying to give baby Phoebe his bottle multiple times. His bottle of, cow's milk, which she cannot drink. But it's so gosh darn cute. Yeah, but I really do think that what people fail to realize when you have multiple children is that love can be like diffusive. Love can come from multiple sources. And I think love like multiplies when you've got all these people who love each other. So then another question I get asked is like kind of the whole notion of like, well then should everybody have 7 children? Like, PS, just PS. Some people ask me like, are you trying to compete with the Duggar family or like any other large family on TV? Like, no, I just want to make that very clear. And we're not racing to have any number of children. We literally take it one child at a time, and we simply just like look at our life and kind of decide as a couple if it's the right time to bring in another child into our family. So does everybody need to have a large family? Absolutely not. I think the decision to have additional children is very personal. I think that it is something that is not a one-size-fits-all kind of situation by any means. And I think that it's something that a couple has to really talk about and discern very carefully. So now you might be wondering, is there ever a point where you might say to yourself, okay, we're done? And I'll be honest, there are a couple of things that definitely we would think about. I think if there was a medical reason, for example, where if I got pregnant and it would put me in a very precarious situation health-wise, that would be a reason for us to consider spacing children. I think mental illness would definitely be something. And this is, just to be very honest with you, this is a reality we have faced in the past, and we had very honest and serious conversations because there was a point when we were just feeling completely maxed out, and mental illness had a very large role in that feeling of being so overwhelmed. But what we instead did was to redesign our lives and consider what is possible. And for us, that was the addition of a full-time live-in nanny. And I have shared in a previous video what that looks like in our life, and I'll put that in the cards for you. And I go into that in my upcoming book, The Possibility Mom, quite a bit. Like, what could you do to make a situation easier, or what could you do to find more possibility in a situation? And that's what we chose to do with mental illness, and so far that's been working for our family. And then finally, if there was some kind of like an accident or some kind of a situation where it did put us in some kind of a financial situation that would be at the detriment of all of our children, that would be another consideration for us. So if you are currently considering having another baby, but you're not sure if you should or you shouldn't, or you're not even sure where to begin in having that conversation with yourself or with your spouse, I hope some of the things that I discussed in this video perhaps illuminated new things for you. But the best advice, honestly, I can give someone who is asking the question of, should I have another baby, is to really just think about, what would life be like without one of your children? Honestly, I cannot imagine my life without one of my kids. They all have such incredible personalities. The dynamic of all of my kids is just such a special one. And I just, like, the absence of any of them, I can't even imagine what that would be like. And so I would say, if you're coming from a place of fear, just to not be afraid, because it is incredible what happens when we are stretched. I do believe that when we allow ourselves to be stretched, when we allow ourselves to let go of control a little bit, if you are of a Christian mindset, when we invite God, our Creator, into that stretchiness, that kind of incredible things can happen. And I'm sure that you can think of times in your life when you were stretched, but you came out the other end so much for the better. And so if you are afraid, I would just encourage you to think about that aspect of times in your life that you have been stretched, but that it made you a better person. And what might be possible for your family? What might the new addition of a child bring? And how incredible could that be? So the long and the short of it is 7 children, all there is for the Canning family. God only knows. So stay tuned. Stay tuned around this channel to find out. But my gut says that we will very likely have more, and I invite you to come alongside us in this crazy journey of a bunch of kids and following our dreams at the same time. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please feel free to give it a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and the bell. I know this is a little bit different. Next week, I'll be back to, regular scheduled programming, talking about productivity, even when you have a newborn. But I really hope this, gave you a little bit of insight into what is important to me, and into an answer to a question that I get asked all the time. Thank you so much for watching, and cheers to designing your beautiful life.